Welcome to your daily dose of dopamine. I'm Robert Cochran here with my pal.
Susan Scarlick, so glad to be here.
Where are you?
I'm in Hawaii.
Not just Hawaii.
There are a lot of humpback whales out there.
You're in Molokai.
I am. I'm in Molokai. Yes.
That's on Molokai, that's a unique part of Hawaii. We do these things so everybody knows without pre-planning. We bring life to the moment because so much of what we're doing and what we're about is about being in the moment, being present, right? That is the basis of improvisation, how we play it, yes, and exercise, and also what we put into our storytelling. My heart is full at the moment, and so I'm going to take the lead on something, and I had Susan just take a look at it because it's very relevant to tonight, and that is what happened just now in the Oscars tonight. Particularly with seeing Will Smith slap Chris Rock for a joke he didn't like. And I'll go ahead and I'll just lead by saying I think it was incredibly inappropriate and wrong of Will to do that. And I understand not liking a joke. I understand defending your wife. I thought his speech was very poignant afterward, Will Smith's was. But the fact that he didn't apologize to Chris, because no matter what he thought of that moment, Chris Rock is a very talented, amazing stand-up, and you know what he's doing. It was a simple, stupid joke, and it was inappropriate to violently react, and that's just what I'm feeling in the moment.
I think it's important to be honest with what we feel, no matter what the expectations or influence are. We have to be true to ourselves. Yeah. And I love that you've just come right out and said that. Yeah. I can't imagine watching that live because I hadn't seen it, and you said go. I knew something happened.
I'm watching it with my kids, and I'm watching it with my wife, and we just really it was like the first thought was, is this a bit? And so I'm looking at that, and my friends are blowing up my text saying, "You're in entertainment. What do you think?" And I'm like, "No, that wasn't a bit." Sure enough, and then you look back at it. And then, of course, you see the behind the scenes and you hear and whatever else. And honestly, the way Chris Rock handled it was almost otherworldly.
Yeah.
But again, it was a stupid joke. I get the people saying that, yes, she just struggled, Jada talking about her alopecia. Absolutely. Yeah. I fully get that. And I get what Will's saying about, wanting to be a protector and this all of that I understand. But you don't go up and slap somebody about that. You take it backstage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you deal with it. I mean, if you're trying to be a better person, then that's part of it. Because look at stand-ups deal with this stuff all the time. People don't like their jokes, and stand-ups do a great service to the world. And now they're going to feel, oh, well, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, so I can go slap this person I don't like, because guess what? That was personal to me. That's not what comedy, we talk about truth in comedy and improv, right? And I know there's sensitivities with that. We've got to be able to be real.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to be honest.
Yeah. And part of it's what you're doing right now is to say that is not okay.
It's not okay.
Oh man, and your kids were with you. There's nothing wrong with kids watching the Oscars until something like that happens.
Well, I mean, it's something to talk about. I don't worry about it on that level. And, certainly they've heard worse. I'm not worried about that.
But not to hit somebody.
Hit somebody. That's what I'm saying. And I think it's pretty clear. And the early returns of what I'm seeing is I think people are coming down pretty hard. Will's got some work to do.
Yeah. And I agree with you that Chris Rock took the high road.
Unbelievable. I mean, not only did he take the slap physically, but he was like, hey, and he said, it was a joke, dude. And Will just kept yelling. And if Will had just yelled, I would have understood a little more. I could say, okay, it's your wife. I get that. But again, to go up and physically slap that man, it's so far beyond. Mm-hmm. And again, societally speaking, I mean, he talked all about being called. And I'm glad for him and just for all of us. And I think that's what we're doing too. We're all trying to answer our calls, and part of that means being human, making mistakes, and then owning them. I hope sooner than later, Will owns this. I hope very soon he owns that.
Mm-hmm. We talk about, we've kind of joked in all of our, Yak's work and other improv work that we're all improvising all the time, but we are, so to the people who don't see themselves as being capable, or that they need to be funny, or they need to be, something, they don't they don't recognize what they do. And I had never thought about it till you said that, but we do all, from one minute to the next, improvise against what just happened.
Mhm.
And Will, he didn't know he was going to do that.
No.
And his honest moment, as you said, it's blown up the internet, and it's, you know, it's all over. And Chris's honest reaction was also improvisation.
Yeah.
And that's when the being true to yourself and just being honest, that's when you're going to get the highest level of communication and throughout. Yeah. So
yeah. And by the way, we're blowing past 5 for a minute because this is, I think, too much going, so it's okay.
Yeah.
The truth part of the truth in comedy is so important. Will's reaction was truthful. That is totally valid. What you do with it, however, is what you're responsible for. And that's the part that needs to just be underlined. You know, it is completely valid to feel what you feel in protection of your wife and protection of, you know, what she's going through, all of these things, not liking it. We as a society have to do better. And we're on the, you know, one of the biggest stages ever than that, with one of the biggest names in the world. He's a huge name. I mean, yeah, right. Chris too, right? And again, you know, in this moment where there is violence, real violence, like, you know, going on in Ukraine, of course, amongst other places, we've got to talk about what it means to feel and then process at a higher level, to do more than give into our animal instincts. And look, I want to say straight up that I understand rage. I completely, especially when it comes to family, you know, wife, kids, parents.
And being, you know, protective
the immediate sidelight is, well, what if someone had done that joke about your dad, type of thing, right? Someone would throw that, you know, and, you know, Parkinson's son, you know, I'd say, that's on that person. I let the joke sit where the joke sits. I've heard people do Parkinson's jokes, and that's okay. Doesn't make me feel good. And do I think it's funny, just today I was thinking about, and it'll probably come out, my like spirit animal right now. I don't know if you watch the ads. I mentioned to you, Dr. Rick, the progressive guy who he's helping people not turn into their parents' new homeowners. And he's very much like Al Franken's character, Stuart Smalley. You know, he's the super sensitive therapist who's here to just, you know, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. That's very much who I am as a person. I know between those two guys who are in weirdly warped ways trying to do well, but having hard times, that's where I feel, and I really feel like there's a character within me that'll come through. And I was thinking about doing a character like that would help in the Parkinson's world. And the first things I was thinking about, well, okay, what's weird or funny about Parkinson's? And I was doing this on my run. And you know, I was like, yeah, the jokes are kind of there, this, that, and the other. But I mean, there's a thing in comedy we talk about, which is you never want to punch down. You don't want to make fun of the people who are actually lesser in power. You punch up. And so I said, you know what we do is we tell the jokes on the doctors. is we take all these real moments that people with Parkinson's have with not all doctors, but the insensitive ones, the ones that don't hear and don't recognize their power and what they do from a stigmatizing standpoint. And we joke on them. And, you know, showing a doctor giving, you know, and it could be maybe a person with Parkinson's performing as the doctor, having a teleconference with a person with Parkinson's and giving some terrible advice. And then I get a step and go, okay, that's not what we're doing right now. No, that's no. That type of thing. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, I'm a doctor of improv, and I help improvise these situations.
Nice.
You know, right? And play that. So, I mean, we talk about the power of comedy. And again, here we're talking about an actual physical slap. And yet, I mean, when it's done well, what comedy does is it speaks truth to power, right? Those who won't listen are going to hear in a side way from those who are being marginalized. And, you know, again, this was Will and Chris a power to power. There's no power draw on either side. They're both super powerful guys. And that's where, again, because you're at that level, and Will kind of brought it up in his speech, but he said, I know we're supposed to take it. And it's like, yeah, you are. That's your job when you're at that level, to take it.
Yeah. Well, and the audience didn't laugh. There wasn't comedy when
it was an ooh,
Yeah,
and Chris immediately said, oh, come on, it was a joke. And it was that moment. I mean, Ricky Gervais is a much stronger example of somebody who goes after people like that. And I love him too. And again, his whole thing is it's never personal. It's not. And again, there was nothing deep about that joke. It hit a vein, and I understand why. Okay. But it wasn't, and again, I know I'm repeating myself at this point, so I'm going to give you the last word on this.
I think we're responsible for what we say. I know there's a reactivity, knee-jerk reaction, protectiveness, all kinds of things, but we are responsible for what comes out. We have to self-filter just out of respect for human nature, human beings, being really vulnerable flesh and blood people.
And to that end, just so I hear you, you're saying that Chris needs to be more responsible for what he said, or are you saying that Will is responsible for what he said, or both, or
neither one? Talking about the rest of us. I think you've done a great job of framing what was telecast. I was taking it out to the world after that things like that happen, give us an opportunity to remember, that no matter how much you love your wife and how inappropriate it might have been, how insensitive it might have been, there's a check. We have to check ourselves. And I think that's true all the time.
And we as a species are better than that.
Yeah.
Well, it might make for good cinema, but it doesn't make for good society.
No way. He didn't even know he was going to do that. Right? It wasn't anything. It wasn't staged. It was reactive. Yeah. And that can get dangerous.
Agree.
Not checking yourselves. Cool. And that's, back to our Parkinson's world. You think about the non-motor things that our work, our YACS work, and our day one work is addressing. We do get people having reactions, people potentially saying things. Poor dad, he suffered from that you captured in your film, and then he got to the place where he was able to put that in perspective. That's just so healthy and so important and so essential. And what I love about this work is giving us a sense of who we are, where our power is, where our strengths are. And we get to stand in that and, carry it ourselves forward. So we may have been more than 5 minutes of a daily dose today, but this was just really important.
Beautiful. Well done, my friend.
Well done, my friend.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.